there, welcome to or welcome back to Tiff Reads Books, where I read books and talk to you about them. Today, the lighting, so much better. You can't see it on frame, but I picked up my standee epi lamp from my parents finally, and I don't have to have the overhead lights are on. Let's turn them off and see what it looks like. Check that out. The overhead lights are off, and we still have light. I'm so excited. I think I can move it. Actually, it might have been better where it was. There. I actually still have light, and I don't have, like, crazy shadows. Okay, I'm excited. This is my weekly wrap up. I got really busy this weekend and totally missed my weekend video. So I have a few things in mind that I've been researching for, and I'm excited to talk about. And I know I say this all the time, but I actually have started writing stuff down. So hopefully those will come soon. So if you want to talk about mushrooms in books, I got some stuff that I want to talk about. If I start to get shiny, it's like 75 degrees down here. And I debated doing this upstairs, but decided, you know what, we're gonna stick with this. It's warm today. My car said 100 degrees with the direct sunlight hitting it when I was leaving my parents today after my horse's vet appointment. And then while I was on the road, it still said 92, 93. Yeah, too hot for me. So not happy about that. But let's talk about what I've read so far this month. I've actually read 4 books so far. And I got 3 hours left on my current physical read, and then I'll be starting some new things. So I'm excited. This month is going a little bit better. These 4 books are the equivalent of 980 pages, including the progress I've made so far in the physical book. I decided I wasn't really going to talk about hours read versus pages read anymore, and I'm just let Storygraph change everything to pages. And as much as I kind of like seeing the orange line and the green line, I kind of really like just thinking about it in terms of pages. I kind of like that. So we're going to go with that for the rest of the year and see how I feel. Maybe I'll change it back. I don't know. So the first book I finished this month was actually the arc of Girl in the Creek by Wendy and Wagner. And I was actually really excited about this one, and then it was kind of a little bit of a letdown, unfortunately. I really, really liked the premise, and I liked the setting, and I went back to requesting arcs because I wanted to read this book early, and I wanted to try NetGalley's audio interface, and I actually really like their audio interface. I think it's intuitive. The buttons are clear. It shows up well on the screen. I just wish it would show up as a player in my car, like Libby and Audible do, so that I can pause it on the screen in my car. That's kind of my only I wish that it had that interface. That's really the only thing about it that I was made Libby a little bit better to use, was that aspect of it. So really liked the interface. Girl in the Creek follows this travel journalist, and why can't I remember her name? I just finished this book and I'm what was girl's name? There were so many characters in this book. She was the main character though, and for some reason my brain is just nope, we don't remember her name. We remember other people's but not hers. Fuck, man. I genuinely don't remember her name. But anyway, so she goes down to this area in Oregon by Mount Hood to, under the pretense of writing a travel article about it. And it's really to investigate these missing girls for her co-worker's podcast that they have about missing girls and women of color. And so she goes down there, but that's actually the other secret premise. The real premise is her brother went missing here 5 years ago, and she's oh, other people have gone missing here. Maybe I can find out what happened to my brother. Basically, with her brother, people were believing that he took himself out of the equation, and instead, she doesn't believe that. She thinks that he's just missing, and so she's got this double-layered kind of secret mission she's on. She books this Airbnb. It ends up being kind of weird. It's full of this weird art. The owner reveals that it's her son's art, and he also had gone missing a couple of years before her brother did. She's our main character, she's like hiding the fact that her brother went missing from a lot of these people. It's kind of weird. I don't know why. I mean, grief does weird things to people, but it also felt just like it was kind of contrived for the plot. I don't want to get into so much about it. But basically, like right after we get down there, she gets introduced to two characters, Jordan and Dahlia, who live in the town. They're locals. One of them is like an outdoorsy YouTuber guy, and the other one is, I think she like organizes like guided hikes and kayaks and things like that. So she's also like super outdoorsy. There's a very big group of outdoorsy people. And then we have these three other people join the group and a little bit after that, who are Hari, which is her coworker that they do the podcast together, his friend Matt, which is his like bestie from college, and his girlfriend Kayla, and Kayla's sister Madison. I can remember all of these names, but not our main character's name. Like, I genuinely, like, her brother's name was Brian. Olivia was the lady that owned the inn. Why can I not remember our main character's name? No idea. So anyway, basically we have all these characters and we're kind of following all of them. It's kind of written a little bit like a horror movie where you're following so many people, but we're not really getting more than like superficial layer of these characters, which was kind of the disappointment for me. I really liked the idea. Basically, there's like a fungal thing that's attacking people, but we have a serial killer, and everything kind of ties together. And I think it was trying to do too much, and that ended up being like not enough. But I did enjoy the story overall. I liked Wendy's writing. I'll probably be looking for more from this author, but everything felt very shallow and surface. So that's my very long-winded review of that book. Apologies. The audio narrator was great, though. Like, the narration was great. So yeah, I mean, if you aren't a character-driven reader and you don't mind things being, like, for the plot, then I guess this would probably be something that you might enjoy. It was pretty gory and graphic, and had some interesting mushroom ideas. So there's that. And then I went straight into another mushroom book. I went into Annihilation by Jeff VanderMeer. This also was a little bit of a letdown. Okay. This is about this biologist who goes into this area called Area X, where something happened there a while ago, and other like groups of scientists and researchers and things that have gone missing or come back wrong. And I love a come back wrong story. I love a people have gone missing here story. I love a biological investigation. I enjoy journal entries. This is all written from the perspective of the biologist's journal. I love all those things. And this kind of let me down. It was weird, which I also love. Oh, the sun is now doing a thing. This was also weird, which I love weird books. But it was another one where I didn't care about the characters. The characters all felt pretty shallow. The biologist in particular who we're following, and she just goes by the biologist. When you go into Area X, you lose your name, basically. And I listened to this over the span of 2 days. And I mean, it's pretty short. It's only like 170 something, 195 pages. And they're kind of like, it was a 6-hour audiobook, so it's not super long. But I just kind of felt like things were happening very quickly. And yes, it's a shorter book, so things should happen with relative speed. However, I think I don't know how to describe. Things were just kind of like happening, and we were kind of jumping because we're in this journal thing, right? We're jumping from day to day because we're in a journal perspective. So we're missing chunks of time. And I just think that kind of made me not as invested in the story as I could have been. I liked the weirdness, but I just wanted a little bit more from our main character. Her motivation for doing things, which I don't want to reveal a spoiler, was just kind of meh, I think. And it did I think my biggest issue with it, to be fair, was that it did the whole loner biologist trope. The biologist who's like more concerned with studying nature because nature makes sense and people don't, and they don't want to be around people because they don't like people because they can't trust people, and so they get really like shut down and like inside themselves. And maybe that was more common in like years passed, but every biologist I know is like, everyone's kind of introverted, but is the most like willing to work with each other, in especially the natural biologists, right? The ones who are not like cell biologists or microbiologists, but people who are out in the field doing field work, tend to have to work with each other because of safety, especially women. You tend to have to go out in groups, or you should go out in groups. And you're always working with other people who are specialists in other areas. Like, I'm always working with people who were microbiologists or did the genetic stuff, I was always collaborating with people. And so I think it kind of turns me off a little bit when we write from these perspectives of these biologists who are like unwilling to collaborate with people because they think they're better than everybody else. And I just don't like those people. So it made it kind of hard to like this character. And she was unlikable for the sake of being unlikable. She was supposed to be unlikable, but it wasn't unlikable in a way that worked for the plot. And I have opinions on how to do unlikable characters that make me still want to read the book and still want to learn about them. And I think this didn't really do that. So I don't know if I'll be continuing the series, which is a shame because like these covers are so cool. But maybe I'll continue with them and I'll get the rest from the library, and decide if I want to keep this one or unhaul it at the end of the year, because it didn't pass my like 4-star threshold, that I tend to try to not keep books that are above or that are below that just because of space. So I don't know. We'll see how I feel about it at like the end of the year, but I'll make a sticky note in it or something. And then after that, last night I finished Snake Falls to Earth by Darcie Little Badger. I started this last month and I've just been listening to it at night. When I'm like winding down, I listen to like 30 minutes of it and just kind of chill to it because it's a middle grade book, and so the way the writing is written is a lot easier to follow. Like, it's at the end of the night and stuff. It doesn't take a whole lot of my attention just because of the style of the writing that it is. I enjoyed this overall. I don't think there was anything wrong with it. We're following kind of two stories that merge together. In one, we're following Nina, and she is a teenager. She's like kind of young in the beginning of the book when we meet her great-grandmother, and her great-grandmother tells her the story, but it's not all in English and it's not all in Spanish, and some of it is in another language that she's unfamiliar with. So she uses like a translator app, and she gets part of the story, and she spends the rest of like the next few years trying to fill in the story. And at the same time, as she ages, her grandmother is aging, and her grandmother learns that she can't leave their property without getting sick. And we also have this guy moving onto the property who's trying to buy the land from her grandmother. And so the family is trying to keep the land, and at the same time, this hurricane is coming because we're in the Gulf area of Texas. And so we have this hurricane coming. And then on the other side of the story, we have Ollie, who is a cottonmouth person. So we have animal people. It's based in, I can't remember which tribe Darcie Little Badger is from, but it's from mythology around her tribe and the tribes of the area that she lives in. And we have animal people. If you've listened to or read Zoë, she does this in there too. And basically they have, this Cottonmouth is having his own like coming of age adventure, and he eventually meets these coyotes and this little frog, and the frog is dying because his species is dying. So he needs to go to Earth to protect his species. And it just so happens that the frog species only exists in this little creek outside of grandmother's property. So the two stories come together. It was cute. It was wholesome. It was engaging in the way it was written. I just think, I don't know if it's an age range of the story or something, but everything came together so easily and so like quickly that I think it just wasn't, I wanted a little bit more from it. But I don't know if that's the age bracket of this story, but I did enjoy it. I like Darcie Little Badger's writing. This is the second book I've read from her. And the representation of having an asexual character is always great, especially for teenagers, and having indigenous American perspectives and a different take on Texan culture from an entirely different perspective than you normally get as a person who looks like me. So that was kind of nice. And just having a soothing story that had a little bit of tension, and it was nice to listen to before I went to bed. So Did enjoy it, but not sure if it's 100% for me. And then today I finished a reread of Every Heart a Doorway, so also has asexual representation in it with our main character, Nancy. So this is the first book in the Wayward Children series. I have just read up to book 4, and book 2, 3, and 4 cover characters who were introduced to us in this book, and it had been like 6 months since I read this, so I just wanted to go back and reread it just to refresh myself with the characters now that I have listened to their stories. And I think this was just as enjoyable the second time as it was the first time. I read it physically the first time and then listened to it on audio the second time, and I think both formats are really good. The audio narrator was okay. I think some of the voices were a little hard to distinguish at times, or I was like, why'd you make that choice for that one? Which is fine. But I think that's because I read it physically first, so I had my own idea of what these characters should sound like, and then, you have someone else start to voice them and you're like, that's not what they should sound like, but maybe it is. I don't know. It's that whole thing. So essentially in this book, we're following Nancy, and she's just come to the Eleanor West's Home for Wayward Children, which is this home. It's a boarding school for kids who have been into portal worlds and come back and are mourning their loss of this world where they felt seen for the first time. A lot of them have home lives that they don't feel. Maybe they're neglectful, maybe they're emotionally abusive, or maybe they just don't feel like they fit in, or they're not what their parents want them to be. And then they have this great place, and then they have to go back to their normal world. And in this one, Nancy is kind of the way that we're getting introduced to the world through. We're seeing everything through her eyes for the first time, and she's describing to us how everything happens. Well, she's not really describing. The narrator is describing it through her POV. We do get a jump in the last 25% into a couple other characters' POVs. But we get introduced to Eleanor West, who owns the school, and some of the other major players here who we'll learn more about in future books. Nancy went to an underworld where she learned to be still and calm and embody just the quiet stillness of death, not the goriness of death. And she felt like she was home for the first time. And now she's kind of going through the shock of not being there anymore while really wanting to be there. But we have this whole thing in these books about being sure. And then there's this idea of how can a child be sure about anything? Because they are children. They can't necessarily consent. So majority of these worlds that we've been introduced to will kick children out on their 18th birthday to tell them to go home, or right before or something like that, tell them to go home and be sure and then come back. And so Nancy got sent home to our world to be sure that she wanted to be there. And so basically it's just kind of her discovering where she's supposed to be, while also there's a murder mystery, which I didn't expect when I first read this. I was like, there's a murder mystery in this? How did nobody ever tell me? Because it always is described as kind of cozy and comforting, but there's a whole ass murder mystery in this book. So, even knowing who did it the first time, it was really nice. After reading it the first time and knowing who did it, it was nice to go back and re-listen to it and re-get some of those characters' motivations. And after hearing their stories, to kind of learn about why they did the things that they did and why they were the way that they are, because books 2 and 4 are prequels to this book. And then book 3 is a continuation, which we do get some of the backstory of one of the characters of Sumi, who we were introduced to in the first book. We get her backstory from someone else's perspective in the third book, which is kind of cool. So it was nice to go back and spend a little bit of time with these characters and kind of resituate myself before I start books 5 and 6. So that's what I read. I'm currently reading Homecoming by Zoë Apostolides. We'll say that. I haven't looked up how it's pronounced yet. So I am 25% into this book. My Kindle says I have about 3 hours left. I am enjoying it. It's a kind of gothic-y type horror set outside of London. I don't know exactly where it's set, but it's in the UK and it's very rainy. And I don't know beyond that where it's supposed to be set. It's in this Elver house, and I talked about the cover in my horror books I'm excited about, and I'm so frustrated because on the cover, which I'll put up here, This fish in the front is actually definitely an eel, and I had thought it was a rope fish, but the two in the back look like rope fish. And I will continue to crash out about this for a long time, because the chapter headers, which I will put a picture up here too, the chapter headers do look like eels. That is an eel. What is on the cover is not necessarily eels. The two in the back are definitely rope fish. The gill plate stresses me out, because the gill plate is more of a rope fish or something in the biker family, and especially those little like nostril thingies. There's this whole thing where a lot of people who aren't fish people or aren't aquarium fish people, and I get it. You see a long skinny fish and your brain goes eel, but they're not. They're just ancient fish, and I just get really frustrated about it. So anyway, we're doing a whole thing with eels, which cool. Like, right, I love anything to do with fish and fish being creepy, because fish are freaking weird, okay? I am totally fine with that, with fish being weird and creepy. And eels especially, right? Like, long bodies on anything is weird, and it's cool, and I love it. So we're following our main character, whose name is Ellen. I can remember names sometimes. And she is going down to visit to interview. We're doing another interview thing to interview this woman, Catherine Carey, to do a memoir. She's a ghostwriter. Our main character, Ellen, is a ghostwriter for a company that produces memoirs for people who maybe just want one for their family or for themselves or something like that, right? People, essentially the idea is kind of people get old and they want to talk and they want to make sure their story's been like told to somebody. So even if it's just for their kids or whatever, they have these memoirs written by a ghostwriter. And so Ellen is going down to do this, and she shows up and it's like rainy and stormy and it's dark and there's nobody home in this massive house. She thinks it's like this little quaint cottage, and it's not. And then she gets there and like the owner's not there, but the door's open. So she goes in and she like calls her editor back and she's like, yo, this lady's not here. And the editor's like, well, okay, go back out to the street. I'll get you a cab. And she's like, girl, it's like a mile-long driveway. The cabbie is not coming back. There's no cell reception here, so I'm just gonna stay and maybe she'll come home. And her editor is like me, where I'm like, girl, that's someone else's house. What are you do? No, you can't do that. And Ellen is like, well, I guess I kind of have to. Like, I don't want to either, but I guess I kind of have to. So she's like, I'll just wait. I'll just sit up and wait. And then she ends up falling asleep and gets woken up by the like woman being very upset about it, which real, logical, understandable, right? So we have this whole thing. But then the owner is kind of not quite right. Something is going on with her that's kind of weird. And now our main character's like stumbled to this like river of eels, and I'm kind of invested, and I need to get my chores done tonight so I can go back and read it and finish it, because I'm kind of invested. And then also it means I can start Fool's Errand if I finish this book. So I want to get it finished. I'm enjoying it. It's an enjoyable read, and I have no idea where it's going. It's going somewhere, but I'm not quite sure where that is. So that is where I'm at. I did buy one book last week. I didn't buy any books in June. Please clap. I didn't buy any books. But I did buy a book last weekend for $1 at my thrift store. Found this, Persepolis, just chilling at the thrift store, and it's in good condition, and I've never read it, so I thought I would give it a go. So we'll see if we get to this month, because graphic novels are nice to have for me, for my like breaking up the pace of things. And the other thing I think I'm going to do this weekend, my boyfriend and I have been like crazy busy lately. We've just been like going everywhere. We've been spending a bunch of money because we've had tons of things to do. We have D&D this weekend, so I have to do some D&D planning. But I think on Sunday, I want to sit at home and I want to finish up Attack on Titan. And so I may go to the library this week. And my library has a lot of they have, I think, the rest of the omnibus, I don't know, the bind-ups of the 3 books of the Attack on Titan series. And I think I might go get them and just finish it. I might just go finish it. So that is something I may do. Making things wise, yesterday I finally finished stitching up the seam on my saddle that I am Frankensteining. So also clap for me on that, because I've been trying to do that for like 6 months to almost a year now. Basically, I bought an Australian stock saddle, and they have these things on the front called ears. I'll put a picture. There's little like kind of lumpy things in the front, and they kind of block your knees in. And I sat on it on one of my mom's horses, and was like, ooh, I cannot ride my horse with this, because my horse is a little traumatized bean, and I don't trust him. I don't trust him to not jump out from underneath me or try to hurt me. And me feeling trapped in the saddle is not going to help that situation. So I decided I could try to resell the saddle, or I could take them off. So my brother and I did a whole thing. And I ripped the leather off. I broke the stitches. And then I pulled these big leather chunks off. And it turns out there was a steel bar inside. So I brought it to my brother, who has a grinder, and he took them off. And then I had to put a little piece of leather over the little stump of the remaining metal and stitch them back together. And that stitching it back together took me like almost a year because of my like out of sight, out of mind thing. So I finally finished it this weekend so I could put it on my horse, see how he went with it. And it seems like it fits him fine, and it seems like he's okay with it. So I got that done. That is a craft thing I got done, is my Franken saddle. And I am going to take this yarn now that a friend gifted me and make this cool little wrist thing for my nibbling. They said that they would like one, so I'm gonna try and see if I can make it. So I've got a bunch of fun buttons to put on there instead of all the beads, so that we can make it real goblin-y for Renaissance fairs and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. That should be fun. I don't know if it'll work, but we'll try it. And yeah, that's everything for this week that I'm working on. I gotta catch up on my book tracker scarf, which turned into a vine. I gotta catch up on that. So that's the other thing I'll be doing this week. Anyway, that's where I'm at. That's what I've been reading. That's what I've been doing. That's what I'm going to be doing. That's what I'm going to be reading. I will see you soon with hopefully something that is not just a wrap up.